Only Murders in the Building, Season 5.
The hit Hulu original is back.
The night Lester died, he was talking with this mobster.
Was he killed in a hit?
We need to go face to face with the mob.
Get ready for a season
Buongiorno, signore.
Oh, this is how I die.
you can't refuse.
You're gonna save the day, like you always do, by being smart, sharp, and almost always by mistake.
The Hulu original series, Only Murders in the Building, premieres September 9. Streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply. New episodes Tuesdays.
A message from McAfee.
I'd say howdy, but I'm not a real cowboy.
And I'm not a real alien.
We're deep fakes, and because of fakes like us,
It's hard to tell what's real.
unless you have McAfee. McAfee's scam detector automatically identifies text and email scams.
And even deep fake.
And it works everywhere, even out on the range.
But you're not even a real cowboy.
If they're faking it, they're not making it past us. Get award-winning scam detection today. McAfee.com/keepitreal.
At the end of the day, football is still football, right? So 11 on 11, line up and go execute. So definitely has a huge hand in, again, just being an extra set of eyes, which is great. I call him after every game. We spend an hour on the phone. Hey, give me your thoughts. I mean, he's just been tremendous in that. And obviously the confidence he's instilled in myself has been huge.
One way we do track that in a game, we tally the amount of what we call loafs, right? So if a guy's not running to the ball, he'll get a loaf, and we'll track those throughout the season and tally those as far as that. Not necessarily like a plus or minus system, but just looking at how many loafs that you may have in a game.
We're looking to get between 3 to 4 plays per minute, right? So if you're talking about a 10-minute period, 30 plays would be the bare minimum, upwards to 40. So in my opinion, you're stealing a lot of reps. It's not super taxing on the guys physically, but it does allow the guys the ability to get those reps and get that communication.
Welcome to the D3 Coach and Coordinators of the Week show, presented by Hansen Ratings. We have Logan Hansen again, and looking forward to this week and our head coach, offensive and defense coordinators of the week, Logan.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into this again. As always, there were some outstanding performances this week. It's so hard to pick just one coordinator or one coach. You know, there are a bunch of shutouts this week when you're looking at defenses to pick, offenses putting up just extremely gaudy numbers, and just some overall great team performances.
This week's offensive coordinator, Logan, as you know, is Jasper Collins from Mount Union. And you want to share their success this past weekend?
Yes, Mount Union this week, they had one of 4 top 25 matchups. And Mount Union definitely asserted themselves early against Grove City this week. They won 49-14. They had nearly 500 yards of total offense on 8 yards per play. And they're doing this against an outstanding Grove City team that has really hung their hat on defense for the last few years. They have what I think is one of the best defensive players in the country on Grove City. And he was the only person on the team who got a tackle for a loss the entire game. Mount Union's offensive line really controlled the game. And what I think is the craziest thing about this game, and what really, made me decide that this was the game to pull the trigger on Mount Union, because they're good enough, I probably could pick them almost any week. But the thing about this game was their average touchdown drive. They scored 7 touchdowns. Their average touchdown drive was only 5.5 plays, but it was 63 yards in 2.5 minutes. So they were just all gas, all game. And do that against a Grove City team that only allowed 10 points per game a year ago is just outstanding work by Mount Union and the Purple Raiders, and that earned them our offensive coordinator and offensive staff of the week.
Awfully efficient offense based on those numbers, Logan. Very impressive.
For sure.
I want to introduce our recipient for this week. It's Jasper Jr. Collins, the offensive coordinator from Mount Union. This week, we obviously are recognizing Jasper and the offense at Mount Union. They put up 500 yards of offense this past week. And Junior is going to talk a little bit about their red zone concepts and red zone practice for our coaches out there. And Jasper, give us some insight as to, what you guys do or your thought process for red zone periods.
Yeah, thanks for having me first and foremost. And it's a tremendous honor to be here speaking with you guys. And we're very fortunate. And, I owe a lot of credit to our entire staff offensively. Coach Dart, our head coach, who coaches our offensive line. Coach Cisneros, who's a grad assistant, helps with the O-line. Kyle Miller's our tight ends coach. Jordan Markowski is our running backs coach. And Therese Scott coaches our receivers. So I think, again, this is a complete staff effort. And we're very fortunate to have those guys and to work alongside them each and every day. But yeah, I think, over the years, I think we can see the importance of the red zone and scoring points when you're down there, preferably touchdowns over field goals. But throughout the course of a game and in football in general, right, I think at least for us, we've seen it change so much where it is, just getting harder to get points down there. Defenses are doing a lot more things. You're not typically seeing as much just straight man to man. Even when you are tight, you're getting some zone looks where there's not a lot of places to go with the ball, different things of that nature. So for us, spending a decent amount of time, probably a lot more, like I said, this past year in terms of dedicating, hey, this is going to be an entire period or maybe a period and a half where we're down there getting some competitive reps versus our defense and different looks there. So I think that's been huge for us, just working that, putting emphasis on the players of understanding, hey, you can't make mistakes down here. Obviously, you never want to make mistakes in a football game, but they happen. But just really understanding how important it is to take care of the football when we are in the score zone, right, and to capitalize. I think a huge momentum changes when a defense does get a stop down there and they, have a chance to get their offense back out and you scored no points. So for us, I think practice-wise, like I said, we do some different things, whether it be, a 7-on-7 working towards the red zone, which is something I picked up from my time in Indy a little bit that I really liked. I didn't think about much prior to. And also, like I said, just the competitive periods, whether, we start the day with, a 4th and 2 from the 2-yard line or, hey, it's 3rd down, you got 2 downs and, what are you going to do? I mean, from a planning purposes, it's, you're going to get to your best calls and what you feel best about that week, obviously, depending on who you're playing. But just, again, putting an emphasis on, hey, we have to go out and execute, fellas. That's a huge portion of this thing. And, what are we successful at? What aren't we successful at? And then why? And then breaking it down from there and just understanding, hey, this didn't look great, or why didn't it look great? Or, what can we do better week to week?
Jasper, how about when you are in your red zone periods, are you primarily working good on good? Is it 1 versus 1? Or are you doing that against scout teams? How are you typically doing that?
Yeah, great question. We do it both ways. We'll have our good on good where it's our ones versus our ones. Sometimes we'll flip-flop it, go 1, offense versus 2 defense and 2 offense versus 1 defense, vice versa. And then, yes, we do have later in the week, our true scout period down there where we're getting the looks we're anticipating that week to go versus. So, yes, we've done it pretty much every way. And again, that's, I think, been big for us is just emphasizing it and doing it in that way where we're getting multiple periods down there, whether it's, like I said, good on good, 1s versus 2s, 2s versus 1s, and also a scout team look.
If you were to say the amount of time that you're spending on the red zone, would you say it's a 5-minute period, a 10-minute period, a 15-minute period? In terms of time, how much are you spending there?
Yeah, I would say around 15. That's kind of the low end for us. We start there, And again, everybody's plan is a little different. Time, constraints may not allow you to do that or just however you plan your practices. But for us, and I think offensively speaking, it's very important that we get that time down there because that's where, a lot of the games are won or lost, right? Can you score when you're in the score zone, And if you can, you have a better chance to win the game. But if you're getting down there not producing points, well, it doesn't matter how you get down there. It just matters how do you do when you do get down there.
Coaching against the Purple Raiders for all those years, Jasper, there were so many good things that Mount Union has done down on the goal line. And Coach Kehres used to do a lot of things with crossing routes and made it extremely difficult. I'm sure if we were to look at your film there, I'm assuming there would be some carryover from things that Coach Kehres has done over the years, but you guys, I'm sure, kind of developed your own thoughts and beliefs down there. But would you say that there's some carryover from what you're doing or what Coach Kehres used to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Coach Kehres personally. Obviously, I was a player for him and then coached under him, and he's the greatest coach I've met. And to this day, and I've been fortunate to learn from him and grow with him and how he thinks and how he sees the game and all that type of stuff. So there's definitely carryover because he's a guy that when he says something, you listen, no matter what it is. So he still does take a look at our stuff. And, when we're doing well, it's good. When we're not, he'll be in here beating down our doors and making sure, we're figuring it out. So there's definitely some carryover just of things he's done over the years. And also, obviously, I've met some new things too, because I think the game has evolved some. enough, not a lot, to be honest, just in terms of what you're getting, how defenses are playing things, how they're lining up. It was a lot different from some of those times back then. But at the end of the day, football is still football, right? So 11 on 11, and you got to line up and go execute. So definitely has a huge hand in, again, just being an extra set of eyes, which is great. I call him after every game. We spend an hour on the phone. Hey, give me your thoughts. What did you think? What did I lack at? What do I need to be better at? And he's just been tremendous in that. And obviously the confidence he's instilled in myself has been huge.
We always used to say when Coach Kehres talks, it's like E.F. Hutton. When he talks, people listen, as they should. You have obviously a great mentor in him. You have a great mentor in your Uncle Isaac, who is a great coach and now a great athletic administrator. And you have some great people along with Jeff that you get to go to for assistance when it comes to offensive football. You got some really good people. We appreciate you recognizing your offensive staff as well. And anybody else that you want to recognize that maybe you didn't mention before?
Yeah, well, Coach Gulling, he's the glue to everything around here. No, he helps with our receivers too during the week and does a great job with us. He's been around forever. He coached me as a receiver here. And so he's kind of behind the scenes in terms of, the website or whatever you want to say. But he's a guy who's been, like I said, tremendous. And he's been here through it all, for such a long time. So it's definitely great talking to him, getting his opinion on things. And, hey, who do you like at this position? What do you think here? Hey, remember when we did this? What do you think about that? So he's the other guy offensively that I said has been a huge help. But yeah, I'm super, again, grateful for the staff we have and the guys we put together because they continue to make my job easier and just, hey, I'm thinking this, I want to do this. Great, we got it. Let's do it, and they coach the guys up well. And again, I think in the world of football, a play is a play is a play, right? It's only as good as its execution, right? So you can sit here and draw up the best things in the world, what you think's going to work. And at the end of the day, if the guys don't understand it and they're not executing it, at a high level, or there's some, doubt in there or some too much thinking going on, it slows them down. And then I think ultimately it hurts the play. So yeah, I think overall, X's and O's are X's and O's, man. Everybody's got a spin on how they do it. But when you generally really look at it and break it down, it's all the same stuff. It's just called a little bit different. And I think that's, 2 years ago, I was fortunate to be the Tony Dungy Fellow for the Indianapolis Colts. So I spent a year with them and I was in the quarterback room. Essentially, I'm a quarterback QC. So that was huge for me and my growth. But again, realizing, oh man, they're doing a lot of the same things we do. It just called it different or looks a little different because of the guys that are doing it. But there's so much carryover in the game of football. I think every team does a lot of the similar stuff. But it's just a matter of, again, as Coach Kehres says, and it's our staple here, players, formations, plays. Start with your players. Who are those guys, right? They're going to determine the formations you get in and how you can create an advantage versus defense, hopefully. And then that's the plays generate off of that. Okay, we got these guys. We like these formations. Okay, what are we going to do to create explosive plays or, make it hard for the defense? So I think that's, again, will be a staple of mine as long as I coach football, players, formations, plays. It's ingrained in me and it'll go with me wherever I go. And again, that's a huge credit and testament to Coach Kehres.
Yeah, that was one of his staple things that has been with him for a long time. And that's a pretty good belief system, value system that's obviously been pretty successful. So Congrats again, Junior, and congrats to the staff. Congrats to Jeff and the great win that you guys had this past weekend. And obviously good luck the rest of the way. And we appreciate your time being on this. And again, congrats on the recognition for what your offense did this past weekend.
Yeah, thanks so much. My pleasure joining, and thanks for having me. Again, super fortunate. This is a tremendous recognition for our staff, not just myself. So super thankful for those guys and appreciate your guys' time and inviting me on and getting to talk a little ball.
We're proud to have Tully as the presenting sponsor of the Hansen Ratings D3 Coach and Coordinators of the Week Award. Tully is the perfect tool for high school and Division III programs, helping coaches track readiness, performance, and development in ways that truly impact a season. At Walsh Jesuit, Adam and Matt Redmond have seen those results firsthand. Here's how Tully helped their players stay strong, more confident, and ready to perform when it mattered most.
So to talk about last season, undefeated regular season, deep run the playoffs, how did Tully impact and benefit you guys down the stretch?
It inspired confidence, because our players know exactly how strong they are in our metrics. They know how much they're supposed to weigh and how much they do weigh. We track those things all the time. And so our kids know where they stand. There's nothing more deflating as an athlete or a coach to see your numbers go down as the season progresses. And that's the number one thing that we try to do at Walsh Jesuit is we want our numbers to trend in the right direction. We're trying to play 16 weeks. And so we want our team to be bigger, stronger, faster, more durable, and also more confident in weeks 13, 14, 15, and 16 than we are in weeks 1 and 2. So it inspires confidence. We max out on some of our metrics going into week 1 of the season. And what our kids see through Tully is just a drastic amount of improvement. And there's no better way to get your team fired up and ready to play. They all walk out like they're Spartans because they just put up huge numbers compared to what they were doing before.
That's the impact Tully is making for programs like Walsh Jesuit and why we're proud to have them as the presenting sponsor of the Hansen Ratings D3 Coach and Coordinators of the Week Award. If you're a high school or Division III program looking for a simple, powerful way to track your readiness, performance, and player development, Tully is the perfect tool for you. Go to tully.app or click the link in the show notes.
Our defensive coordinator of the week is Ryan Cortez from Wisconsin Whitewater, and they had a great win this past weekend as well. Logan, you want to share your information on Wisconsin Whitewater's defense?
Yeah, like I said at the top, there were a lot of defenses this week that shut out some high-quality opponents. And the reason I went with Whitewater was just I kind of look at defenses as two molds. You can either have a wild dogs sort of defense where you're creating a lot of havoc plays, your TFLs, your sacks, your interceptions, or you can just kind of be a boa constrictor and just not let the other offense get any breathing room. And Whitewater this week was the epitome of a boa constrictor. They just did not let St. Xavier get anything going offensively. The longest play for St. Xavier, I believe, was 19 yards. They only had 3 plays over 10 yards on the entire game, 107 total yards, only 6 first downs, and they never crossed the 50. They did have one drive start on the other side of the 50 in Whitewater territory. That ended in an interception. So the one time that St. Xavier was anywhere close to getting any points on the board, they threw an interception in the first couple plays of that drive. So Whitewater, they look to be backed up to their old tricks. The Whitewater that was consistently getting to national finals. And with this defense, if they keep playing this way, they're going to be a tough out the rest of the way.
I've seen that happen a few times over my career, Logan, where a team kept somebody from crossing the 50-yard line. And that is an impressive defense when you're able to do that.
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, the other team's a college football team, too. It's hard to win college football games. It's really hard to keep people from crossing the 50-yard line.
Yes, it is. It's an incredible thing to accomplish in a college football game. Hello, we are joined by Ryan Cortez, the defensive coordinator at Wisconsin Whitewater. And in our discussion, Ryan is going to talk to us about the importance of mentality when playing defense. They've obviously done a great job there. They won 37-0 this past weekend and gave up 107 yards of offense. So, Ryan, we look forward to you sharing. Let us have it, buddy.
Yeah, I would say there's a great week of preparation for our guys. We had played St. X in 2019, and we knew they'd present some challenges and some different things. A few coaches that are currently on our defensive staff, our head coach, Coach Rindle, our linebacker coach, Coach Martin, have been really with us for a long time, and we were all on defensive staff together when we played them in 2019, and knew that St. X would be a talented opponent and would present some different challenges for our teams. When we played them down there, like I said, in 2019, it was a really, really close game and really competitive game. And so we wanted to make sure our guys were really ready to go. And it was, like I said, a great week of preparation for the guys. And the guys really attacked the practice week the right way. We look at our Tuesday, Wednesday practices as like our heavy work days and want to make sure our guys are really attacking the day in the right manner. And thought the guys really did that. And that's really a testament to all the guys on our coaching staff, even really down to our GAs who are getting the scout team going and giving us the best possible look that we can, coaching up the O-line, the receivers, the quarterback, the running back to make sure that everything looks like it will when we get to Saturday. So hats off to those guys for making sure not just the defensive guys were ready to go, but the guys who are giving us a look were doing a great job as well.
Talk to us about, again, your philosophy on the importance of mentality playing defense at Whitewater and how you coach that not only in your players, but in your defensive coaching staff.
Yeah, I think that really stems from something I learned from Coach Bullis, who was the head coach prior to Coach Rindle. A lot of my philosophy is how I was taught was through him. And the way he gave me the analogy was picture yourself as a pitcher, right? The first pitch you learn how to throw is your fastball. If you really want to learn how to throw a fastball, you got to grip it and rip it, right? And then from there, we can kind of fine tune things and so forth, but you got to learn how to grip it and rip it first, right? So day one, when guys walk into our program, the first thing I show them is the mentality piece. And I could tell everybody, you may walk into this program and have no clue what's going on, but level one expectation for us is that you go fast. And that's in everything that we do, whether we're transitioning a drill, whether you're in a drill, right? You're in a live team rep, doesn't matter. Everything we do is going to be fast. And those things, and if you're attacking the practice in that manner, those fine details will come through the coaching, right? The more reps you get, the better you'll get at those things. But the bare minimum you can do to help our program get better is go fast on every single rep.
Ryan, can you just maybe talk about how you evaluate that, whether it be in practice or games on video? How do you evaluate that essentially your guys are living that mentality every day in practice and every day in the games?
Yeah, no doubt. In games, probably a little bit easier because you see multiple hats at the ball and we got a bunch of purple jerseys at the ball knocking the piles back and those things. But at practice, our coaches give concrete feedback on what their expectation is for really, like, in my head, finish. And that is a pretty big indicator to whether or not you're playing fast, right? You turn on practice and guys are standing around and not pursuing of the ball and those things, you have a pretty good idea that they're not embodying that mentality. Our coaches will make sure that they evaluate that and let guys know that they're not living up to that expectation. So, for example, our back end guys might be burst through 3 lines. We need to see 3 hard steps through the whistle. For our D-line guys, you need to sprint through the line of scrimmage. So you turn on the practice film and you're seeing guys jog or stand around, or they're take 2 hard steps and they're not getting through those lines, well, then you know they're not embodying that. You're holding them to that standard and you have the concrete feedback on film to tell you, hey, you didn't do that and we need this, right? And if you're not doing these things, you're not helping the team get better.
Ryan, do you guys have a grading system that you utilize on paper, and is essentially effort one of those things that you're grading? Because to me, that's an effort thing. If they're not running through the line or giving 100%, then that's poor effort. And that would be a minus. Is that something that you guys utilize?
Not something that I necessarily utilize at practice per se. I'm usually just circling that guy on huddle so that we can point it out. You know, whether that's really like a guy who maybe is getting 3 reps at practice or a guy who's getting 25, right? It doesn't really matter. If you're not giving the effort, we're going to circle you. But one way we do track that in a game, we tally the amount of what we call loafs, right? So if a guy's not running to the ball, he'll get a loaf, and we'll track those throughout the season and tally those as far as that. Not necessarily like a plus or minus system, but just looking at how many loafs that you may have in a game.
Yeah. If you got 20 loafs, you're probably not doing too well in terms of your playing opportunities for next week. That's good. I think that's an important aspect of evaluation of your players. If they're not giving 4th grade effort, you can't win with that, as you know.
No doubt, yeah.
And you guys have obviously done a phenomenal job of making that clear to your players, because there's not a lot of L's in Wisconsin Whitewater. So appreciate that. Great information, Ryan. Appreciate your insight and appreciate your willingness to share. I know our coaches will appreciate that understanding and the importance of mentality when playing defense.
No problem.
Yeah. Anybody else that you want to recognize before we let you go?
Well, I'll say I think our whole defensive staff has done a great job. Coach Rindle really coming in and speaking with us and working with us with the game plan. He's currently working with our safeties, so hearing his perspective on things and coming together with that. Coach Martin really had our linebackers playing at a really, really high level on Saturday. It was pretty exciting to see 2 young guys who us as a staff agreed as our players of the week. 2 guys that said they're sophomores and haven't had a lot of game experience, and both of them had interceptions this Saturday. So getting those guys prepped and ready to roll. And then our corners coach, Coach Cross, doing an amazing job. I think St. X has some really talented guys and can be a pretty explosive offense if you let them be. And he really had the back end prepared to meet that challenge. So, and I'd also like to tip my cap to the GAs. Those guys get not a ton of glory all the time, but they're doing a lot of the work that really helps us tick, right? Getting the scout team going and making sure they're giving a good look and giving us our best possible chance to be prepared for our opponent on Saturday. So, like I said, is really just an overall team effort, and I think our guys do a great job every week getting our guys ready to go.
As the defense coordinator, Ryan, do you get to yell at your head coach since he's coaching a position on your defense?
More conversation if we need to. No, it's been really good. Being on the sideline and having him right there is nice to get your couple inputs and little nuggets that are really good, and being able to have that instant feedback is really good. And the last 2 weeks having those conversations has been awesome.
Ryan, we appreciate it. Again, congrats on this recognition. Congrats on a great game. And we wish you the best of luck the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Optimism isn't sunshine and rainbows. It's fixing things, changing the way we fix things. It's running the world on smarter energy. Because if optimism never stops, then change can't either. GE Vernova, the energy of change.
Our head coach of the week is Pat Ruley from Rowan University, who did a great job this past week. Logan, you want to share your information on Pat and the success that Rowan had this past weekend?
Most definitely. Rowan, week one had a little quirk. They had one of the first ties in decades after a lightning delayed game. So this was the first game this year that they were actually able to finish. And they finished on offense and they finished on defense. This is, we've only been doing this for a year, but this was the first time that I've had a team earn an A+ grade offensively and defensively. And they did it against a Moravian squad that won a bowl game a year ago. This Moravian squad is no slouch by any means. And Rowan dominated in every facet of the game. They outgained Moravian by more than 400 yards. Not just Rowan had 400 yards. They outgained Moravian by 400 yards. It was 496 to 69, and they had an edge in first downs of 25-4. Offensively, if we look on that side of the ball, they only threw 3 incompletions, and that was with 3 different quarterbacks attempting passes throughout the course of the game. They had 2 different running backs eclipse 100 yards, and they completed passes to 10 different receivers. Defensively, they only faced 41 plays. I know I've been on a couple staffs where you go into the locker room at halftime and you've only seen 20 plays and you're thinking, I don't know what they're going to do, but whatever you're doing is working when you're only seeing that many plays. Your defense is getting off the field every single time that they step foot on it. And they only allowed 1 third down conversion. And they were a combination of both that boa constrictor defense and the wild dog defense that I talked about. You only allowed 69 yards, but you also have 7 tackles for a loss. You also have 4 pass breakups. And remember, that's only on 41 plays. They're not doing that against 70 plays by the opposing offense. So just an outstanding performance from Rowan. They earned their way onto my top 25 ballot for D3Football.com this week after that performance. So, look for them to make some noise in the NJAC. And congratulations to Coach Ruley and his staff.
1 third down conversion, Logan. I mean, that's almost unheard of, again, in a college football game. That is impressive defense to keep somebody from converting 1 time on third down.
I know. I mean, being a defensive player when I was in school, to be able to get off the field almost every single time that you get that third down sign going up on the sidelines, that's got to be just a great feeling for the players. These are the downs that we've got to make a difference, and they did the entire game, and just a great job by them.
A quick note before we get into this interview with Coach Ruley. He does share some video clips in his interview. We'll put those on coachingcoordinator.com.
Hello there. We're here with Pat Ruley from Rowan University, who had a great win this past weekend. And Pat is going to share some really interesting stuff regarding his practice. He's got some really good thoughts in terms of practice efficiency. And one of the things he has in his practice is an alignment period. And We're going to ask Pat to share a little bit of that. I think that's a really good concept, and it's certainly something that's helping his practice be more efficient. Pat, go ahead.
Yeah, John, I appreciate it. Before I kind of start, obviously, I'm honored to be a part of this. Thank you guys for having me on. Really, after the performance we just had, I'm just a small piece of the cog that goes into that happening. Our offensive coordinator, Gino Gradkowski, when you put up 50-something points in a game, those guys definitely had a great plan going into the week, and they got the players in the right spots to execute it. Ryan Morrison, our quarterback coach, our quarterback went 13 of 16. So making a lot of great decisions, 4 touchdowns, 250 in the air. And then, the rest of the defensive staff, Andrew Kirkland, Dante Wall, Chuck Feist, they got those guys cranked up this week, Tony Brown, ready to go. So really top-down performance, really excited about the group that I have as a staff. And those guys did a tremendous job executing the game plan and getting the guys locked in to have the performance we had this past week. From the perspective of the thing we're discussing, the alignment period stuff, it was a way for us as we looked at things at a previous stop of, I wasn't really happy with how pre-practice walkthrough was going. And I think that fell back on me and not really the tempo and the energy and the intensity of that period, not really locking us into practice. And so I was really racking my brain to try to figure out, how can this become a more locked in period? How can we make this more efficient? How can we get more out of this, 8-10 minute block that we have? And so we came up with what this was, which was the alignment period, which basically was the ability to get anywhere from 16 to 24 plays in a very quick period of time, talking about communication, formation adjustments and recognition, movement, checks, and high volume formations we're going to see that week, or the very funky formations that we want to make sure we're addressing and auto checking. So that was something we really looked at. So when I'm trying to get out of the alignment period, right, we're looking for the first 3 to 4 steps, full speed. All right. So a lot of times if you're a shotgun offense or playing against a shotgun offense, pretty much going to be about a second after the quarterback catches the ball and goes into a mesh or into a drop back, right? This allows us, whether it's offensive linemen, to work their combo blocks or their footwork in those first 3 to 4 steps, whether it's the mesh between the quarterback and the running back, whether it's a release versus press as a wide receiver. And then obviously the reverse is true on the other side of the ball, with guys reading their keys at the linebacker level, guys having a great first step up front in the D-line, our corners and our DBs working their coverage technique, reading through the 3-step window, playing press man or off man, whatever those things are, right? But really being able to get those technique reps. It allows our guys to really communicate on both sides of the ball and steal reps in that way, whether it's the operation, because we are a heavy motion shift team. So getting that stuff down offensively. And then we do move our fronts a lot and play a lot of different coverage shells with trips and empty and bunch check type stuff on the defensive side of the ball. So it allows us to work those things in a short period of time. We do move the ball every single play, and I'll kind of show you a grid of what that looks like in terms of how we operate on a base level. But we're looking to get between 3 to 4 plays per minute, right? So if you're talking about a 10-minute period, 30 plays would be the bare minimum, upwards to 40. So in my opinion, you're stealing a lot of reps. It's not super taxing on the guys physically, but it does allow the guys the ability to get those reps and get that communication. Moving on to kind of what that grid would look like. And so I would hand this piece of paper to the guys that are out there at wide receiver on this look squad. A guy will be the 1 every single rep, a 2 every single rep, and so on. And you see here, right, we have a hash and a yard line. And every snap we'll move, right? And it gives us the ability to get a trips check with a wing, right? An empty check, a bunch alignment. So if we're in man, how are we playing man? If we're playing zone, how do we want to shape that bunch in zone, right? Versus 2-back. What are our rules there, right? But our ability to work through a lot of these things from a verbal perspective and an eyes perspective and a very attention to detail, technique-oriented perspective without taxing these guys' bodies physically and stealing a lot of reps, right? So if you're doing this every day in practice, 3 physical practices a week, right, you're talking about anywhere between 90 and 120 added reps that these guys are otherwise not getting. When I look at, and I'll pull up kind of some clips here so you guys can just see what this would look like, right? So you see the guy at the top of the screen, right, working press man. You see the guy at the bottom of the screen working off man, right? Offensively here, we're running some of our gap scheme stuff where guys have to fit it up. The pistol mesh with the quarterback, right? You see here some different types of formations, right? Different pass game, guys getting to landmarks, right? So you see, like in this picture right here, right, our ability, we're playing, off man down at the bottom of the screen, right? You're playing press man at the top of the screen. Your guys are running their stunts up front. The offense is getting their fits, right? They're getting their mesh from pistol, how they're fitting counter from that formation, right? If they're running a pass concept, the quarterback's mentally going through his progression based on the shell he's getting. Receivers are getting to landmarks, right? And you're able to coach on guys' angles and their depth of their breaks if they get there and what the depth of those routes is. You see us playing bunch here, and again, a lot of motion, right? So timing all this stuff up, but not really taxing these guys and stealing this time, we think has been super helpful and super critical to us getting volume of reps and allowing ourselves to see a lot of different pictures, but at the same time, you're not burying our guys physically so we can be as fresh as we possibly can be come Saturday afternoons.
I try to get out to see as many practices as I possibly can. And every practice that I've been to, there is always a walkthrough, it seems, at the beginning of programs' practices. And your idea of making it a much more efficient, a much more involved, a little more than a technical walkthrough, I think is a great idea. Matter of fact, I would encourage you to, down the road, I went to a practice right down the road from you at Rutgers University, and they do a warm-up very similar to yours, and it's very efficient. And I think, again, the idea of getting more out of your walkthrough is a great idea for coaches. And you're not beating your team up, which I think, again, is a very good thing for keeping your kids healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always looking for ways to be more efficient. And I think about even, especially at the high school level, where you're not a 2-platoon unit a lot of times and guys are playing both ways, your ability to steal reps from a mental and technique perspective where there's only so much time in a practice and those guys are doing both sides. And so if you can steal a volume of reps in a short period of time, I have to imagine that's going to give you an edge over a lot of the people you're playing who are not really utilizing that time the same way. So
those are some great thoughts, Pat. We appreciate you sharing with us. Anytime we commend our Division III coaches and especially our head coaches, we certainly want to do that. Anyone else that you want to recognize as part of your staff that maybe you didn't mention earlier today?
Yeah, our new athletic director, Sean Tucker, he's hit the ground hot running. He just got hired in June, and he's been a huge supporter of ours. Actually came from Rutgers, so he played there as well under Coach Schiano, so very familiar with that program. And I'd be remiss to not mention my head coach at home, who's taking care of the youngster most of the time, especially in season, Lauren. Baby daughter, Lila, is about to be 2 years old. And more than anything, they teach me about efficiency, that's for sure. When you have an toddler running around, how can you be efficient with your time? So this is definitely also just her ability to allow me to do what I love and support that and try to be a great father when I can be as well. Got to shout out them for sure.
Again, appreciate it very much, Pat. Great information. And again, appreciate your sharing and congrats on a great performance this past weekend.
I appreciate you guys for highlighting coaches like myself and other ones throughout the season who do a phenomenal job in the platform. And I'm really excited for the rest of the season, and we'll see where things go. But I really appreciate you guys honoring myself and the staff this way.
Well, we want to congratulate again Pat Ruley from Rowan University, Jasper Collins from Mount Union, and Ryan Cortez from Wisconsin Whitewater. And we appreciate the insight that they gave us on their programs and some very good information that they provided to our listeners. Thanks again, and congrats to all three coaches.
You bet. And I'm looking forward to some more great football this weekend, John. We've got some great matchups in the top 25, but as always, there's 240 teams. There's going to be great games and things happening all across the country that you're not going to see in any other division. So it's going to be another great weekend of Division III football this week.
Appreciate your time, Logan. Appreciate the information, and your system has got some interesting stuff that you come up with. Again, we appreciate it very much.
Yep. Thanks, John, and I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to Coaching Coordinator Network, Hansen Ratings D3 Coaching Coordinators of the Week show. We'll be back again next week with our week honorees. Be sure to check out our presenting sponsor, Tully.app. Go to their website and see all the things that they are doing. Definitely something that can help you as a coach, whether you're at the high school level or the D3 level, in managing your athletes and their development.